We're ready to get started. Just make sure everyone's hear us pretty good. Just thumbs up in the back. Okay, great. So my name is Kevin Leo, the neighborhood affairs director for the city of Miami Beach. Today's meeting is a hybrid meeting, so you all thank you for coming in person, and then online on Zoom. This meeting will be recorded, so everyone that's here, if there's something that we can't see, if there's a bit of a glare and you can't see it, we are going to share this with the group. We're going to have a survey period that we're going to announce at the end. First, I want to recognize our elected officials that are here today and give them an opportunity to open us up, and then we'll turn it over to Jose to go through the stuff. So first, we have Mayor Stephen Meyer joining us. Hello, Mayor. So, Commissioner David Suarez. We have Commissioner Alex Fernandez. Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez. And we have our Vice Mayor Laura Dominguez aide, Aaron. He's online, as well as our police captain Madison for the Middle Beach area. So first I'm gonna. Oh, Commissioner Magazine's walking in. Thank you for
Bonnie, how are you?
With that, I'm going to turn it over. I know Mayor Minor wants to say a few words, and then we're going to turn it over to Commissioner David Suarez and anybody else who'd like to speak, and we'll give it a Jose.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief, but I just want to thank you for all coming out here. Believe it or not, this is a good crowd. We don't always, and I'm sure we have a lot more people virtually. It shows the importance of what we're trying to do here. Before I even get into this item, I'm not going to speak too much about this. This is actually Commissioner Suarez's item. Traffic mitigation is a key component that we are working on. I joke sometimes that we probably spend more time dealing with traffic issues with very few results. Although it's probably not fair. I think to some extent we do get results that are just hard to see because the traffic is so bad. We're taking it extremely seriously. It's almost a public safety issue at this point because law enforcement vehicles can't get through, but that obviously is just one of the components. And people's schedules are changing. People literally can't leave their house certain times of the day because of the traffic. And we all live here. All the commissioners, the mayor of Miami Beach. So we're working on a lot of different things. We have a traffic management control center now in Doral. We're the only city in Miami-Dade that has that, where we have a real-time traffic center. There's many other things. I'm working on a program to try to bring water taxis to Miami Beach so we can go north and south and to Miami. So there's many things. So this is an idea, and Commissioner Suarez can talk about that he has. And it's a potential pilot program. It's not approved yet. We wanted to get community feedback, but just know that we are working on many different things. I'll even give an example. The water main project that's going on in 41st Street in Mid Beach right now. I can tell you, I personally spent hours and hours, and Jose and our city manager and our police department can attest, trying to make sure that we configure that in a way that it is less disruptive as we possibly can. It's obviously going to be disruptive, and unfortunately, we have to do it. That water main that we have now is cracking, and we won't have a water pressure and supply if we don't do the project. But the key is, how do we do it in a way that we disrupt everyone's life as least as possible? And if you notice, I don't know how closely you watched, I was watching it really closely those first 48 to 72 hours. We made a lot of changes that improved it over time. So there's many different avenues, but keep giving us your feedback, and we're listening and we're trying, and we're doing the best we can. Commissioner Suarez.
Thank you for coming out, guys. This is my first charrette, so I hope you take it easy on me. But one thing that was very clear when I was going door to door is the number one complaint. Everyone, it's stifling. It's the main issue. It's the main cause of disruption and a quality of life issue on Miami Beach. And we hear you. All the commissioners hear you. I heard you. And my attempt at this pilot program is to alleviate traffic going north and south. There's really nothing we can do for going to the mainland or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's out of our jurisdiction. There's not much we can do, but we can certainly try to do something to alleviate traffic flow between north and south. And so originally I had an idea of planting, starting at 37th Street and ending up at 43rd Street. And to reduce the impact of, on residential neighborhoods, we decided to move it to 40th Street and 42nd Street. And so what transportation is going to present to you today are two options for you guys to see what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with any of them. So, but bear in mind that we're trying. And it's not just me, it's all my, we're all trying to do something to alleviate this. Traffic on a long-term scale, it's going to be a multi-pronged approach. There's not going to be one silver bullet. This isn't going to solve traffic. Sure, I think we all know that. It's going to be planning. It's going to be building workforce housing so people don't have to leave the beach. They can walk home, they can bike home, they don't have to be in a car to get home. Those are some of the solutions that are long-term to figure out the real traffic solution on Miami Beach. For the time being, I'm hoping that this can alleviate traffic for people that are in the north, south, and vice versa. So Jose, I'd like you to kick us off.
Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, and thank you all for being here this afternoon. We understand, and I, as a Mid-Beach resident, I have to travel 41st Street a lot, whether it's across it or along it. Empathize with the frustration with traffic. A few things about 41st Street. First and foremost, it's a state roadway. It's a road, as we know, that accesses an interstate highway. It's on I-195, which has no signals, there's nothing limiting traffic there except just the volume of vehicles. But a lot of, once you get to 41st Street, then you encounter a corridor which only has 2 lanes in each direction, which has a lot of traffic signals from Alton to Collins, which has a school zone, a very long school zone that probably half the corridor is a school zone. And then you've got intersecting north-south avenues with a lot of traffic that's trying to get to 41st Street. Then you have pedestrian traffic trying to cross 41st Street. So there's a multitude of factors that the confluence of which just creates this explosion of traffic, particularly in the afternoon peak periods. So as Commissioner Suarez mentioned, and I want to thank Commissioner Suarez for spearheading this. As he mentioned, we're looking for solutions. We're trying to get as creative as possible, looking for solutions. Different things have been tried over the years. Not much has worked, to be honest with you, with the exception of we've gotten the county and FDOT to come to the table with regards to the coordination of the signals, which is a big topic of discussion. Signals being synchronized or coordinated. And they are. As a matter of fact, we held a workshop in October of last year. We had the county there. We had the highest levels, the county, FDOT, stating that they have looked at 41st Street and it is a coordinated corridor. And we can see that when it's not congested to the maximum, we can see that the signals for the most part are sequenced, in green or on red, and that there's a lot of green time that's given to 41st Street, many times at the detriment of the north-south avenues. So that has helped bringing the stakeholder agencies to the table to understand the gravity of the problem. And one thing that any traffic engineer, even though I'm not a traffic engineer per se, I've worked with many of them, that any traffic engineer will tell you that once capacity of a roadway is reached, and capacity is a real number, and it's based on the number of lanes that a facility has. And so a facility can carry a certain amount of vehicles per hour per lane. Once that number is exceeded, capacity is reached, and at that point, the signals are not doing their function. They're not performing their function. They're not efficient. And so it may seem, if you're stuck in traffic, it may seem as though they're not coordinated, when in essence they are. But what happens is that there's so much queuing of vehicles that when the light is green, you can't move. And then when it turns red is when you can move. When it turns green again, then you can't move. And that's gridlock. That's by definition, that's what gridlock is. And we know it happens, pretty much every afternoon here along the 41st Street corridor. So, which brings us to why we're here today. The goal of this potential pilot program is to try to improve north-south mobility for trips within the city. So we know that every afternoon during rush hour, there are a lot of people in our city that are trying to exit the city, and they do so through 41st Street. More so now than before, because there's a lot of construction going on the MacArthur Causeway over by the I-3, the I-395 Signature Bridge project. So going west on MacArthur is very challenging. As a result of that, we've seen an increase in the volumes over the last few years of just more traffic on 41st trying to access the Juliet Tuttle Causeway. So, but still, we, the residents, there's gotta be a way that we could still get around the city. So the idea with this pilot is that we try to flush that north-south traffic as best as possible. And then the traffic that needs to turn onto 41st Street to exit the city would use other avenues than the avenues that we would designate for north-south. So, with that, I don't have a click. Next slide. So we have, two options that we're gonna be sharing with you this evening. The first option, the essence of it is to create a one-way pair using Sheridan Avenue and Royal Palm Avenue. The way the one-way pair would work is that Sheridan Avenue would operate in the northbound direction and Royal Palm Avenue would operate in the southbound direction. The pilot limits, as Commissioner Suarez mentioned, would be from 40th Street on the south to 42nd Street on the north. It could always be scaled to a greater extent, but we felt that this would be a good starting point in terms of a test or a pilot. The pilot would be in effect, if you will, in the afternoon peaks, which we've estimated to be from 3:30 to 7. 3:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Friday. So the benefits and some of the impacts associated with this first alternative, the first one is that we feel that the one-way pair, making Sheridan one-way north, Royal Palm one-way south, follows the logical rules of the road where we drive on the right-hand side. So if we're going north, we're on the right. If we're going southbound, we're on the left. And then, the beauty of this alternative is that it utilizes both lanes that are out there today, of course, one being north and south. We would convert those to be one way in one direction. Again, with Sheridan operating 2 lanes northbound and Royal Palm operating the 2 lanes in the southbound direction. Some of the impacts is that because of the change in the directionality, the on-street parking that's on the east side of Royal Palm Avenue and on the west side of Sheridan would need to be, in essence, prohibited. Because legally, a vehicle cannot park facing in the opposite direction of the traffic flow. And so during this pilot period, 3:30 to 7, that we would be changing directionalities, the on-street parking on the, call it the wrong side of the road, would need to. Oh, my apologies. Okay, I'll speak louder. So, so the first disadvantage is the on-street parking, would have to be prohibited during the hours of the pilot. The second is that because we would be changing traffic flow and affecting people's access, their way in and out of their homes, if you will, that triggers Miami-Dade County approval. Miami-Dade County has jurisdiction over traffic on streets, even local streets within entail a change of direction on the roads, and that automatically triggers the county, which they have a process for these types of projects. Their process is more geared to, permanent implementation. However, they are open to pilots and to tests, but pretty much the same process would need to be followed. The process involves data collection both before and after, and during, of course, the pilot and public input. Next slide. So this brings us to the second option, which would maintain the two-way traffic, so existing conditions along Sheridan and along Royal Palm Avenue. However, we would prohibit northbound and southbound left turns from those avenues onto 41st Street.
Excellent.
Again, well, the pilot limits would be in essence, just 40th and 41st Street, so it's even a more reduced footprint, if you will. Same hours, from 3:30 to 7 PM. Some of the advantages associated with this one is that it's easy to implement, because we're not changing directionality on Royal Palm or Sheridan. So that entails less of an impact to the neighborhood. However, it may not be as effective in achieving the goal that we're trying to achieve here, which is to increase the capacity for northbound and for southbound traffic along those two avenues. And because this is a more simple concept, it may not require Miami-Dade County review and approval. We're gonna have that conversation with them, but we think this one could potentially fly under the radar, so to speak. And again, the disadvantage is that it doesn't really increase your lane capacity along those streets. However, by prohibiting the left turns from Sheridan Avenue onto 40th Street and prohibiting the turns onto 41st Street, the northbound turns, which is really that heavy movement, then we're somewhat achieving the goal of this pilot. The traffic would need to continue northbound and cross 41st Street along Sheridan and along Royal Palm. Royal Palm would remain two-way.
I think the idea is, it's like having a bridge there without the actual bridge. And so the reason I picked Sheridan and Royal Palm is because everyone knows here that this intersection, once a car stops, makes a left or right. The people behind you cannot go right or left, east or west. So then you have all these backups here. And that's, it's the bulb out. And so there is no, unlike Pine Tree, you have that and it has a little bit better flow, but here specifically, you really have a very narrow lane and you can't go left or right. And also the beautiful thing about this is, let's say 41st Street is backed up. This is gonna be controlled by officers. And if it's backed up, they're gonna be manning the box here. And if there is let's say there's a green light on 41st Street, but it's gridlock, police can still direct traffic to go through. So even though 41st Street, you might have a green going east-west on 41st Street, if it's backed up, police can still have direct traffic to go down Sheridan and Royal Palm, which is another great thing. And that's, in essence, I'm trying to create a bridge without actually a bridge and just get more flow. And so, that was 2 hours, right? Yeah. So
Actually, you hit on something, Commissioner Suarez, Jose, maybe you can adjust, because we did our walkthrough with police and we talked about, could we get rid of those bulb outs? And maybe 2 or 3 spots, because then you create an extra lane as you approach 41st Street. And that would allow for the potential turnings and a car going straight, which you can't, as Commissioner Suarez said, you can't do right now.
But removing the bulb outs and take years. I realize everything takes years here. So this could be done, we could probably implement at least option 2 relatively soon. And I wanted to see what you guys are at today.
Where does the traffic go on option 2? You're saying they can't turn left, so where is it going? Into the neighborhoods?
Yeah.
But then they're gonna be going into the neighborhoods and driving around there and turning around with all the kids and being more trafficy in the neighborhood
What do you mean?
under this one. Well, so they've got to drive set further south and north into the neighborhood to turn, right?
Well, it depends on where you're going. So, I
Right.
mean, if you're crossing 41st Street, let's say you're coming from the north and you're crossing on option two.
Well,
So
you're saying you can't turn left onto 41st.
so you can't turn left, you can't turn, correct.
Right.
So where would I turn left?
You
Where,
would take,
I'd have to go up into the neighborhood
No.
or down into the neighborhood.
any other street.
You'd be forced to go to Chase and Prairie, that's already backed up, and next minute else.
Right.
Or you have to go to
So the idea is to segregate, to try to segregate the traffic. So there's internal traffic that's staying within Miami Beach, most of which are resident trips. So those trips would use these avenues to sort of, use that bridge and be able to cross 41st Street quicker. If a person wanted to turn, make a left and go west and exit the city, they would use Royal Palm or Prairie. So a big part of this is getting that message out.
They're going Royal Palm, third, 24th.
Let's do one of them. What's your name?
Helen,
So explain to me where you're coming, if you want to come here.
here you are, let's say you're heading north, and you're going here, but you can't turn left. So you've got to keep going up to where you can find a left, Why would- because
I think-
you didn't stop on 41st, you could be shopping here, I could be going
Gets the
to
highway.
those places, I could be going in here.
Well, over here, right above 40, that's the parking lot, so you can make a left in the parking
Well,
lot.
that's what I'm saying, but then then that's gonna end up backing up, so it's gonna end up going into the neighborhood. That's what I perceive.
Yeah, I certainly see that, but when I go out at 5 o'clock, everything's backed up. And-
Right,
Not in the
but you
neighborhood.
can't even get cross streets. If you want to get from Sheridan and you want to go over to Chase or Royal Palm to get somewhere, that's backed up too. So if you live on Sheridan or you live on, or you're trying to get sideways, you can't get sideways either. They're backed
Well,
up
you got-
all the way.
You also have, you have every other street besides 41st Street.
No, no,
Just one
you
point.
can't,
You
you can't.
you have a slide,
Sideways.
you have a slide that shows a T-dash area of the name.
Go back to.
Go to option one.
Yeah.
There you go.
But this is the we converted.
Right.
So what?
How would you,
I was asking, you can't even go east or west. So in other words,
On the-
on any of these roads, Royal Palm, Chase, Prairie, as if you're only forcing traffic one direction on any of these streets. Again, I don't know why you picked Sheridan as opposed to Prairie, as opposed to Chase, as
I don't know
opposed to Pine Tree.
Well,
I mean, Pine Tree is a beautiful street, because they have a lot of traffic and they're used to a lot of traffic. And I'm sure the people there would love it also, but nonetheless, you can't go sideways, so you're not fixing the problem, you're still gonna be landlocked because you can't go right or left to get to Prairie or to Chase or anywhere if you wanna get out. So to this lady's point, assuming I who live on Sheridan Avenue want to get to 41st Street, I can't make a left from 41st, I can't get to Royal Palm, I can't go that way.
You can go to 40th Street.
Right, 40th Street, these are all blocked up, and it'll take you half an hour to get to
Yeah.
40th.
But getting across 41st Street is the bigger problem. So if you're
Getting to 41st Street and across, but I'll go on, and you ask other people. Has there been a traffic study on this?
Good question.
Any official traffic, and by the way, I appreciate your help. I appreciate everybody's help. You're obviously spearheading, so. I do want to say that's very nice that you've invited us, that we're here. I don't mean to make a joke about it. We're obviously frustrated. But has there been any kind of study on it?
Well, our transportation team studied it, and it's, in my opinion, worth a shot. And again, this is just a pilot. We're not changing this temporarily, it would be 6 months. And look, at the end of the day, traffic is just getting worse. And getting across 41st Street is a nightmare. When I take my kid to Mathnasium, it's a nightmare. It takes 45 minutes to get from City Hall in a car.
So there has been a traffic study, an official, the county, we have not all paid, no one's paid for a traffic study for this, or anything about this, or anything else. Has there been a traffic study?
as part of this test, we would collect the data and we would do the analysis as part of this test.
Sir, I feel we're turning residential areas where we pay a tremendous amount of taxes. We bought houses there years ago now, last year, to have a tiny bit of flats. We all have kids, hundreds of kids. It's a religious neighborhood. I am not Jewish, but on Saturday, there's kids, old elderlies that walk on the street. And we're turning it into, in my opinion, for service. My driveway from 3 to 7:30, they won't let me out, so.
Well, hold on, to that point, what I'm hoping that this does is it moves the traffic where you're not bumper to bumper, you can leave your house. Right now, everybody's.
Right now, I can't get out of my house, driveway, I live on 3151 Sheridan. I have to wait 20 minutes because no one lets me out. And I think that other people can second to that, you know?
This will
Can I
actually.
ask a related question?
No, the red lights on 20.
If I could, I'll take over the Q&A. All right, so I'm gonna take over the Q&A. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then Commissioner Magazine's gonna jump in right after this gentleman in the blue shirt, then I'll come back. So we're going to the gentleman in the blue shirt. Yeah, we're gonna come around. If you keep your comments, questions to like 1 minute, and then we'll go to the next.
Thank you for coming, thank you for asking us, and involving us. I have a related question. Something is sending this traffic into our neighborhood in the first place today. Today there was no traffic, yesterday it was massive, last week there was none, the week before it was massive. There's other things being done, and Mr. Gonzalez, if I read the name correctly, thank you for being here. There is something that's being rerouted. Last year, Pine Tree, the left turn was blocked, which sent all the traffic to our residential neighborhood. This started suddenly a few years ago. We had never any traffic. So the city has done something to put the traffic into our neighborhood in the first place. I would not like to make it now flowing more easily through our neighborhood. I would like to figure out what it is.
Thank you, and thank you for those comments. So we have people on Zoom and we have people in the room. Before we start losing some people, this is my email, so it's kevinpolito@miamibeachfl.gov, and Gabby's here helping me. What we are planning on doing is we're gonna start a 2-week comment period survey starting tomorrow. This QR code is gonna take you to register your email so you could get updates on the project. But tomorrow, with whatever you signed in with, if you signed in via Zoom or downstairs and you left an email, we're gonna start that 2-week comment period and we're gonna send it out via email, and you'll see the project webpage. This entire presentation will be there. Tonight's meeting is being recorded. So again, with that, this is the beginning of this comment period, so want to go around the room. Again, if you could try to keep it to about 1 minute. I told we're gonna go to Jelena, her neighbor, and then we're going to the back, and then we'll move our way up.
Just doing comments and not having feedback?
No, we're going to, sorry, Jose, if you could respond to this.
So the question was, how do we get traffic out of the city?
What they being done to send it into our neighborhood in the first place, because it's not an accident. Traffic is not by accident.
You have one of the 2 biggest employers that use 41st, and that's about Mount Sinai. And so.
Not 41st, I should say, 37 south of 41st Street, the Jewish neighborhood that we live in, just for Royal Palm there. There used to be no traffic, suddenly it started. Occasionally days there is nothing, on other days it's massive. There's other traffic control measures being done that guide the traffic to our neighborhood. And that's what I would like to stop, because it's a residential neighborhood.
There's not one reason, right? I mean.
No, I'm sure there's not.
There's, like I said at the beginning, people can't afford to live here. And so when you can't afford to live here, you need to get in a car or a bus and you leave to the main. And so, that has increased. I mean,
Then it would be the same, forgive me for interrupting, but then it would be the same every day. It's not. There is.
there's definitely
There's massive on and off switch that's being thrown somewhere, and I would like that thrown, which should be on off.
Let me say good, if I could find that switch. I got it, I could find that.
What is the source of the traffic? What is the source of the traffic?
The source? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's a confluence of different issues. One of them is a lot of construction going on the MacArthur. That construction on the MacArthur is driving people to take, no pun intended, to take I-190. We have seen we have seen the traffic volumes on the MacArthur decrease and the volumes on the Tuttle increase.
How long have you been?
Oh, once construction.
4 more years. I'm sorry?
Once the construction is over, you should be more traffic.
I'll say, hey, do you mind if I jump in? Yes. Let me. Good afternoon, guys. My name is Alex Fernandez. I'm one of David's colleagues on the city commission. First and foremost, thank you all for being here. And I really mean that because this is a community engagement process in this. Commissioner Suarez brought this item to the commission, and his intent was before anything being enacted, anything being implemented, to start off from the bottom up, to ask the community for input, even if the input is not to move forward with this. What we are hearing from the community is that you want solutions to the traffic issue. Is that correct? Okay, and that's what Commissioner Suarez is proposing here. If this is not it, we have a team of professionals that work with us to find what will be a solution. Let's not discourage the creativity. And the other thing I just want to say out there, what's causing the traffic in the neighborhood? So many things. The state of Florida has the express lanes. The express lanes take up lanes of traffic from I-95 that cause issues in our neighborhood. And I live at the corner of Chase and Alton, so what you guys experience, I experience every single day. I wasn't able to get home today before coming here because the traffic was backed up to 34th Street. If there's an accident somewhere on the Tuttle or somewhere in I-95, that has a direct impact within the grid and the traffic flow in our neighborhood. The Signature Bridge project, as our transportation director mentioned, is redirecting traffic towards our area of the city. Those are all things that the city of Miami Beach has absolutely zero jurisdiction over. And Commissioner Suarez has been in Tallahassee advocating on these things. I've been in Tallahassee meeting with the Secretary of Transportation on these things to try to alleviate I know many of our colleagues, Mayor Minor has been advocating tremendously to solve the issues with the gridlock. Believe it or not, it was about to get worse because there was going to be an Alton Road reconstruction that was going to start simultaneously to the Signature Bridge project that had that stayed on cue with the schedule for construction would have only made our nightmare a true living hell in the near future. And our city commission unanimously passed a resolution asking FDOT, hey, listen, you can't move forward with this right now because it's going to destroy our city and our quality of life. And as Mayor Minor mentioned, it becomes a public safety issue. And so, you know, Commissioner Suarez is coming forward with a creative idea. Is it the solution? Perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. All that I ask is let's constructively give feedback, because from the feedback we get from you guys, we can go back to the drawing board and perhaps find other solutions. And again, thank you for being here. And please give us your feedback, because a lot of this, what is causing the problem, if we knew, we would have solved it. The one thing I can tell you is that the city is trying to work on the coordination of the projects so that we don't have the entire city under construction by FDOT at the same time, you know, contributing to these challenges.
I have.
Okay, if we could, let's try to reel this back in for Q and A at least. So what I'm gonna do, one in the front, one in the back, and we're gonna go back and forth. So this person, you had your hand up? All right, if you could just keep it to about 1 minute. Gabby, if you could go back to the map. Yeah, it's fine now.
It was mentioned a few minutes ago, that there is a capacity for 41st Street. So what is that? What is the number?
Yeah. Correct.
The capacity of 40 lanes for
2,300 per lane.
22 to 2,500.
So how much currently at peak times, when this is full, how much traffic is coming up here or down here into these things? How much traffic is trying to get into 41st Street? what are those numbers for each of these streets? And going back to Prairie and Chase. Do we have those numbers?
No, I don't believe we have numbers.
Well, that's a fundamental problem.
Let's have a traffic study that's coming up.
No, answer the question. If you're already at capacity of 2,500, let's say, then if you're trying to add another 50, 100, 200 from these various streets, it's just not gonna work. It's gonna back up no matter what. And anybody who, if this is full, you can say, have this here, they're gonna go north here. Where are they gonna go? 42nd Street down to Prairie. Doing is creating more.
That's a great point. That's a great point. So,
Already in our neighborhood, there are people who come up Chase, and you don't see it, but you come across on 44th Street. 44th Street has become increasingly clogged up at 5 o'clock or whatever time it is. When I go walking in the neighborhood, it's noticeable that the streets are becoming full. So what we want to be doing is not encouraging people to go to this neighborhood or this neighborhood, but preventing that from happening. And I don't, and I applaud the fact that you have the meeting. I applaud the fact that you're trying to find a solution, but you can't be, this is 2,500, no matter what you do, it's not gonna be so bad. What are people going to
we have a
do?
lot of people that want to make it similar. So we hear you, but now I said, I got one in the front, now I'm gonna go to the lady in the back right, in the black.
I want to follow up.
I live on 41 between Post and Royal Palm. And basically, to Kelly's point, I have 5 young children. We choose to walk everywhere because of the traffic. And besides for it taking me 40 minutes to get my kids from their academy and get home, where they almost miss their after school every single day. When we actually get home or get from the JCP and start walking to 44 between Post and Royal Palm, cars are getting frustrated. I don't blame them. They're speeding like crazy. My boys who are 11 and 9, sometimes they scooter by themselves between the after school. They're very careful. I cannot tell you how many times they call me from their cell phone to say that the car almost ran them.
I second that, that's the problem.
I have to split myself. I have 5 children in 50 different pieces to be this place at this time.
They're very aggressive, they're wild, it's dangerous.
But it's not just my kids. I'm seeing other kids screaming. I'm yelling at them. I'm crossing them. I'm yelling at the cars. I've almost gotten run over. I look, I'm not on my phone like, walking like some people. It's really, nothing against you guys. We appreciate everything you're doing, but it's really scary. And God forbid something ever happens. You don't realize that most of the cars, like, are bad. All the cars go around our blocks to get out. Even at like 1 in the morning, you'll see all the cars going around our blocks to, get onto the highway or to get back into Miami Beach. And it's really frustrating and
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming to share that, and I think we have a lot of neighbors that want to share something. So I'm gonna go to Jelena. You can-
Yeah, first of all, thank you for, spearheading this, and for me, the main thing is our highest congestion is during extra events at the convention center. Okay, so at that point, everything gets completely gridlocked, starting from Date, up Prairie, up Royal Palm, all of those streets. The key here should be to keep traffic on main arteries. When the convention center was built, we were promised a diverter at the garage that would lead traffic instead of into all these neighborhoods, because we're one neighborhood that edges into the other. It was supposed to go down Date and catch Alton Road, which automatically already eliminates quite a bit of traffic that would be running through both of these neighborhoods. That was never implemented. So the key is, like you said, we need to figure out from what this is stemming. First, yes, I understand there's some traffic that just, we have no control. It happens on Julia Tuttle, it just bleeds into our neighborhoods. But the bottom line is there are a lot of issues during high impact events that can be mild. And I don't see anything, because this, as much as I'm a big believer in pilot programs, but ultimately, how is this gonna solve a bigger issue?
Thank
It
you.
might help people pick up their kids at Mount Park after school or North Beach and stuff. But the smallest amount of internal traffic will just go up and down.
Thank you. So I did two on this side. I'm gonna go Lee in the brown. You had your hand up and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna come up
Okay,
here
my name is
and then
Nicole
back.
Cohen. I live on 31st and Prairie. My question is, by choosing Sheridan and Royal Palm, basically what you're doing is you're putting all the traffic on Prairie, which is the worst street by far because it's the feeder from South Beach. It's the feeder from South Beach for everything. And not only that, but it's the feeder to get onto the highway where on 34th and Prairie, where the cars turn left onto Chase. And it's highly gridlocked. Like, you're taking into account 41st Street and clearing up 41st Street, but the problem is there's massive gridlock everywhere, as Dr. Newman said, that there's so much gridlock already from Prairie. Yesterday, it was backed up to 28th Street. So you're gonna end up having now, instead of 28th, now it's gonna be backed up all the way to like Dave Boulevard, where it's just like a disaster.
That's Jose. Can you speak to maybe the road choices and why don't?
And the gridlock you're referring to, a big part of it is because if cars are trying to make a left to get to 41st Street, they can't, because 41st Street may be congested, and they have to, and they may have the green, but they have to, the northbound traffic may have the green, but they have to wait. So there's a gap to be able to make that.
Thomas, every car that can't make that left on Sheridan and Palm is now going to Prairie,
Correct, so.
which is already a
in terms of-
disaster.
In terms of the choices, the reason why we went with more the eastern avenues for the north-south flow is because, again, it's for internal trips. If you wanna get to 41st and exit the city, that's more to the west side, that's closer to Alton, that's Chase, and that's Prairie. So the logic was have those avenues be for the turning traffic that wants to get to 41st Street and out, and have these be more for the internal residential traffic that wants to stay
The
within.
bulk of the traffic is the people getting out of Miami Beach. That's probably 95% of the traffic. And the other local, what we're doing is we're walking it because we have no choice. I can't leave my house for 4 hours a day between 3 and 7. So all this is gonna do is make it 50 times worse because, and again, we all appreciate everything you're trying to come up with, but it's just gonna make it worse.
Well, to be fair, we don't know that it's gonna make it worse.
Well, because what are the cars doing that they need to get out? Where are they gonna go? They can't go on Sheridan and they can't go on Royal Palm now. So how are they
Well,
getting in?
technically, they couldn't go on one of them, so on this proposal, if you're going north, you wouldn't be able to go on Royal Pond, because Royal Pond's going south. But that's option
All
one.
all the
But-
cars are coming from South
But
Beach.
traffic will always be the path of least resistance. So if there is an opportunity for someone in South Beach to take Sheridan and Royal Palm or Chase or Prairie, it's gonna happen regardless. The only thing that this does is allows cars to travel across 41st Street. They're not gonna go speeding by because it's all gridlock and it's only gonna be between a very set number of hours. So, look, again, this is just aiming to see if this is a possible solution, because right now, when you go outside, you're gridlocked. There's
Right,
nothing.
but
you
how
can
are
do.
these
And
cars
hold on.
getting out of
And
45?
another thing is, you may have said that you walk everywhere. A lot of people don't walk. A lot of people have
Not by
like.
choice.
Right. I mean, a lot of people can walk and they have to afford the 45 minutes they're gonna be in the car to go.
With all due respect, sir, I think you have the same exact issue on Indian Creek and Collins. And you're moving it towards our
Right, you're moving
neighborhood.
it to-
It's
it's
like
gonna
a
be worse.
domino
It's gonna
effect.
be worse.
So, I mean, we do appreciate what you're doing, but the same complaints are probably even worse on Collins. People living on Collins and Indian Creek.
Commissioner, I live on 34th. Everything is blocked. That's 34th Prairie. Traverse north and south.
Okay.
That's one thing.
We're gonna-
involved.
Thank you. Thanks. We're gonna try, I'm trying to go back and forth. I told this
You got
person
this
and
before.
that.
I have a question. Assuming this gets implemented
Yeah.
after
You
all.
can down with the tax.
I just want to understand the plan because I don't think it's been clear. Assuming the pilot program is implemented, despite everybody's criticisms and comments.
Yeah.
Is this a temporal program that should the pilot program pass, it only is implemented during those specific hours, or is it becoming a permanent solution that's 7 days a week, 20 minutes?
Well, I think the data is gonna suggest that. So once we have, because this is gonna be part of the study, so to speak, and then once we have the data, we'll decide if this is a complete failure, or it's tweaking, or the hours need to be changed. Or we, you know, we go back to the drawing board.
Then the second question is, how are you going to police the pilot program, including all the implement it? Where you have confusion, people are turning down the wrong way on a one-way street, unless you have a police officer at one end and at the other end, there's inevitably gonna be people who are confused. They're gonna assume the roads are both ways, they're tossing the police, you know, the cars are placed at risk. So as part of the pilot, we would have to collect data. We would have to collect volumes, primarily the queue lengths. So, and we would do that before the pilot, during the pilot, and after the pilot, so that we could compare, okay, up to where is traffic stretching now? Is it going all the way down to 37? Is it south of 37? Current, without the pilot. Then during the pilot, we'll collect the data to see what those queue lengths are on each of the avenues. There's a lot of data collection that's gonna be involved with this to determine whether this, you know, is working or not.
Anyone ever? Have they ever suggested blocking access from these neighborhoods for non-residents? Or even 63rd back, where the traffic can't go through those neighborhoods and it's diverted.
Yes.
Done during special events.
Given that.
During special events, we don't.
Can I address that one?
Your home sector, well, let me.
So two things. One, I brought a couple months ago an item. There was a lot of, about congestion pricing for non-residents. But there's a lot of bureaucratic with FDOT and what have you. So, but at least let's explore it and see if it's a possibility. So I'm looking at that. As far as the resident pass, this goes back a couple of years ago. A lot of the commissioners weren't even on the commission yet, but when I was commissioner, I spent 6 months working with fire and police. Our commission approved a program where non-residents would have, residents would have an express lane. Basically, you go through sort of like with a sun pass. Unfortunately, that has to commence on I-195 or on the MacArthur, which is not our jurisdiction, and FDOT rejected it. They will not allow us to make that, and I've tried, I think Commissioner Fernandez has tried, maybe some others have, I've tried, they won't allow it, and so.
I don't think, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about restricting access from Dade Boulevard into the neighborhood so that non-residents can't use the neighborhood as a means to leave.
For the diverted
So-
traffic.
Right, so the county has a process for that, to close the streets, in essence, creating a gated community. This is what we're talking about. There is a process for that. It entails creating some sort of a special taxing district where the residents tax themselves for those improvements, the capital as well as the, you know, the operations and maintenance.
Maybe that's an option.
Maybe that's an option.
You were right. You said that.
That's gonna be through, it's gonna be.
First, you have 4 lanes, right?
Yeah.
Well, during that time, can you do 3 and 1?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
They can signs, they can all turn there, make it 10 minutes. Great, all the lights green, and you got a hydrant right
That's a
there,
good idea.
That,
Good idea.
and Jose,
okay? So it'll be 20 minutes of all green lights. We're gonna have police officers there in the corner, and they just keep on going, keep on going, keep on, then stop for 10 minutes, like that. You don't bother any neighborhood.
But that would cause a lot of traffic.
They do it in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut. We're not there.
Well, what he proposes is to leave the lights on 41st Street for 10 minutes, but which I think.
No,
you're
we're
missing.
gonna have police officers also.
I think what you're missing is when there's traffic on 195, there's nothing that we can have the green, we can have lights on forever and it's still gonna be backed up. So.
Okay, 5 minutes.
It doesn't matter.
I'm just saying.
so, but that's the feedback, that's what we've heard feedback on this plan, that's another idea that they could explore. How about lady in the red hat?
Yeah, I live on Royal Palm, it's between 40th and 37th, and again, I do appreciate y'all thinking about this issue. But my concern is that we are turning our neighborhood streets into thoroughfares, and I am not okay with that, as we all have children, we all have dogs. We just don't want anyone hit by these crazy drivers who are really frustrated and upset. Why do we not put in speed bumps on all of our streets like they have? What?
I also have two small children, I have three dogs, so. And this would start on 40th and 42nd, and there would, in essence, the only issue would be at 41st. So there is no main thoroughfare. Option two would keep everything the way it is, and just restricts turning on 41st Street. You have option.
All through traffic, not to come through our neighborhood. Right.
Yeah, listen, look, unfortunately, we can't control that. We can't say to someone in a car, you cannot go through here. Even if you go to Lagos or you go to Sunset Islands, there's a gate there. But you can still go, like, they cannot stop you, they cannot stop you from going there.
But you're traffic.
And again, that's another subject.
No, this is this
I
subject.
understand that, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people from the north to cross to the south and vice versa. What I'm hearing from you guys is you want a proposal to restrict non-residential traffic through the neighborhood. And that is another subject, and I understand that.
You're diverting that traffic into the neighborhood, so it's the same.
Just add
So
traffic.
we're working on a project. It's a neighborhood traffic calming project. It would be a permanent project. That's not a pilot project. And so that project is intended to reduce trips that don't belong in the neighborhood. They're called cut-through trips. It's people that are trying, Waze is telling them to go through these residential avenues to try to, cut the travel time. So traffic calming projects are intended for that. I'm gonna pass it on to my team. By the way, I was remiss in not introducing my team. Hassan Shuri is the senior transportation engineer, O'Neill Rodriguez and traffic calming project, which is almost finalizing design. I'm gonna turn it over.
So good afternoon, everybody. So as Jose was saying, we do have two traffic calming projects, and to Kaya's point, those projects are intended to reduce the traffic through traffic calming measures. Right now, there's two, Bayshore neighborhood, which is south of 41st Street, and north of Dade Boulevard. That one, we are in 100% design plan. We're working with a lot of you on some suggestions that have been made to us, but we're working with the county to get it approved. We're anticipating starting construction in the end of summer, early fall. So that's that particular project. Also on the north side, north of 41st Street, we also have what we call the Orchard Park traffic calming project. That one is, if you call it, divided in two phases. One phase is introducing a traffic circle on 44th and Prairie, with a speed table on the north and a speed table on the south. That's also to reduce the speeding in that area. We have completed the traffic analysis. That project did have a traffic study. We went through rigorous reviews. It was approved by the county, and now we're in the process of starting design for that particular. We worked with our consultant to develop a scope and fee. We're in the process of getting that executed and very soon starting that design. We're also going to be reaching out to the community as part of the traffic calming process. We do require the input from the community. It's a requirement from Miami-Dade County. So similar to how we're having this conversation for this particular pilot project, we'll be having that conversation in the future for the traffic calming project.
I thought there were two in Orchard
Yeah,
Park.
what's the second phase?
The first phase is the traffic circle, is a standalone project on 44th and Prairie. The second phase, that's the overall neighborhood as a whole.
But saying, we
And the whole
approved, we approved that commission just like 2 months ago. I think it was unanimously by the city commission, the Bayshore traffic calming, as you said, to deviate a lot of this traffic and speeding cars and all that from the neighborhood. When do you anticipate the implementation of that project.
So right now we're in 100% design, it's been submitted to the county, so the construction for that one, Commissioner, end of summer, early fall.
Is
Of
traffic,
this year.
is traffic calming, speed bumps, circles, those types of
It's
measures?
a combination of all, it's a combination of speed tables, traffic circles, and also, raised crosswalks.
Okay, we're at 7 o'clock. For Zoom, we're gonna continue here, but I'm just letting the people on Zoom know, we're not able to take public comment via Zoom, so we're gonna put our emails on the screen. You can email us. And again, we're doing the survey period that's gonna stay open through May 22nd. Commissioner Magazine, did you want to add
And
something?
just real quickly, and maybe we didn't do a good enough job of telling you what our intention was and what went into our thinking. We can agree or disagree, but where we started with this and where Commissioner Suarez was really looking to go is actually to divert traffic away from the residential areas. And how we thought to go about it through this way is deciding what is causing that traffic to divert to your neighborhoods. It is people that are leaving the city in between the hours of 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. And the major thoroughfares are backed up, so they are going on your residential roads. So the thought behind this is if you are able to restrict that from turning onto 41st Street, leaving the city from the residential roads, they will no longer use that as a viable alternative to get onto 41st Street to leave the city out west. So perhaps, our thinking is
How, yeah, how is
Exactly.
how are they gonna have West Sports?
well, essentially, why they are going on streets like, where we're restricting Sheridan is because the major thoroughfares going north to south are blocked up because people.
Okay, so I'm gonna go next, this lady.
Thank you. Okay, so I live on Chase and, Chase is a disaster. First, I'd like to thank you for this, and I understand what you're doing. I understand this concept of taking one northbound road, so all the locals can zoom to the other side and the southbound. I understand that. I appreciate that. But I live on the turning street, okay? So I'm a little concerned here. Are you gonna make, 2 lane to turn on 41st Street, like this one gentleman said about literally just, having a bunch of turning lanes and let it go, so people can get out to the highway? Again, we keep saying it's nothing we can do if there's a backup on 95 or whatever. How are you going to handle Chase in particular? Because it is a disaster. And also, are you guys gonna be able to talk to Waze or something and put something in there? Stuff and you have to go one way and this way and whatever, because it's everybody, like this wonderful woman over here pointed out, it's a lot of people who are at the convention center and who are going through our neighborhoods. So I really do appreciate my friends who live on the other side will be able to go straight home. I'm still in hell. So if you can address how you're planning on handling the turning onto 41st Street and making that move smoother and faster, then, maybe we can get somewhere.
A very valid point, thank you. So, we're gonna need police's help during this time. Police will be at key intersections to direct traffic, guiding traffic. So police, their role is gonna be to look at 41st Street, seeing if there's room for the turning vehicles to turn into 41st Street. And at that point, that intersection would be under police control. So regardless of what the green light says, because as we know, 41st Street gets most of the green lights, not the avenues. But once police controls the intersection, they'll be able to gauge, how much left turning traffic.
So you're saying if it looks
Do
clear.
you realize
more.
Then they'll
today,
flood.
as of today, making a left turn, promise you, one lane, very different. There's no cops for 5 minutes. There's not a police officer, like you say, rightfully so. Now directing traffic with 2 lanes is going to be a disaster. So it has to be mandatory that from 3 to 7:30, like you say, 3-4 times a week, there has to be a police officer making sure that when you make that turn, you don't get stuck in the middle, because then on the left, it's gonna be a disaster. So I'm just telling you, if this passes and you don't have a call during those hours, well, everybody in here is gonna lose dramatically.
The good thing about this program is that instead of having the police just sit by their cars and watch traffic go by, they're actually gonna have to engage. They're gonna have to tell the cops coming in, saying, hey, you cannot make a left here, you cannot make a right on 41st Street, you have to keep on going straight. So they're gonna actually be engaged instead of just, doing this. Because, look, everyone sees that.
Commissioner, but you know how many cars get stuck right in the middle?
And
They
just-
don't know how to drive, and that's, it's.
And just, and not to divert from the issue, but the commission passed unanimously, an item that I put forward for block-the-box cameras along 41st Street. That pilot program, I'm hoping, is ready by the
What are
end
block?
of, so you are in the box and the light, you're stuck there, you get a ticket.
Oh, what about when the cops tell you to go to?
Along 41st.
Yeah.
That'd be the pilot. Well, that's another pilot.
Okay, I'm gonna go to the back. Gary's got his hand up.
Two options.
Yeah.
Two options. Next question is, am I correct? It's not gonna be 24/7. It's just 3:30 to 7 PM, Monday to Friday. So at 3 o'clock, you can make that left turn. And then like after 7:30, you can make that left turn.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
And I see you can make a right turn?
Sorry, this lady, I'm gonna go to this lady in Burgundy. For those on Zoom at 7:30, we're gonna end the Zoom, but we're gonna stay here in person. And we're gonna keep talking.
So I think recently you guys put up, barriers on the east-west streets to get from our neighborhood to Pine Tree. If this goes through, I live on Sheridan, like on 28th, are you gonna remove those? Because it's hard just to give us another option to go east-west to get out of the city as opposed to going west, we can go east to Pine to get out.
You can't do that now.
Well, because you want, I'm sure to prevent traffic from getting into the neighborhood, sure, but it would make it easier for us to get out if it was one or two of those. For us to get on
So the restrictions that you're referring to are the delineator poles that are along Pine Tree Drive at 29, 31, 33, and 34. So that measure was actually taken for safety, more than anything for safety. The pine trees block the sight distance for vehicles that are on Pine Tree Drive and want to make a, there have been numerous accidents. I'm severe. I want to say the mayor has been a fatality here, but, because of that sight distance, so that's why that was blocked. I would venture to say that those would need to remain in reasonable condition.
I'm a resident of Miami Beach. I travel frequently for my doctors, for my bank, for my family, friends, synagogue. My issue that I've got is that I don't see a way to get back, go east. And unless I go around to either Chase or Prairie. And I think that in order to make that turn to go east.
East on where?
East on 41st Street.
Where you come from the south or from the north?
Either way,
You can go east on coming from the south. We're not restricting,
we're not restricting the
right turn on coming from the south.
from the south. On either Sheridan.
Correct, on option two.
Okay, so that would be, you can make the east turn there.
Correct. Because the traffic backs up primarily going west.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying it's going.
Correct.
Otherwise. So that's, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Did you have it? You put your hand down. You're good?
I
You could
did,
be good.
no, all the traffic that backs up on Sheridan now going north to 41st Street. You're saying there's not gonna be a left turn. They're not gonna know that. So they're gonna go through 41st Street and they're gonna mark their first left turn. So that's gonna destroy all those side streets and it's gonna be better. And
Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna educate those people.
It's gonna be part of a community notification piece
I'm
also.
not talking.
You're gonna need
They're going off the island. I
that
don't want
in
them
those
to-
intersections.
I like it because it'll get me going north, but that's the majority of those people are backed up to 28th Street on Sheridan because they want to go left. Now, if you're forcing them to go, those aren't
Yeah.
people that live north of. So they're gonna take the first left they can, they're gonna take 42nd, they're gonna take 43rd, 44th. And as the lady said, she's trying to get her children, 5 children through. They are speeding. I go through there too. They're speeding like
So we're
crazy.
gonna have Jose respond. Good people.
Ms. Jose, maybe you want to address that more police issue, but that our commission approved the specialized traffic officers that have now been budgeted.
Yes, that's correct. As part of the current budget, police has additional traffic enforcement officers, actually their public safety specialist is their technical name. Police is going through the process of recruiting and hiring. They've hired some. They need a few others, but, we're very keen on the idea of traffic cops, as they're called sometimes. And they're going to be deployed strategically as needed. I'm sure they'll be needed in this area, and there'll be some in this area, but other areas of the city as well.
And, Seth, yeah.
Sure, right.
When would they expect to begin this concept? Because if we start today and go for 90 days and end, that's the summer. I'd like to see this happen during the school year. So that we don't think that, oh, it was great because it worked. And then immediately there were no school zones for 90 days. So let's just hope that it's happening during the, when it's shut down. That's, well, everyone loves the summer.
Right. Very good point, very good point. So, but this pilot will begin during the off season, during the summer, but it will need to extend into the peak season to really see if it works or not when traffic is on speed.
Thanks, Barry.
Yeah, I got here about 10-15 minutes late, so I may have missed the beginning. The only map I've seen so far is this from 40th Street up to 41st, so, and maybe another map. This is a systemic problem, as Yelena has said, it starts down from, 17th Street, Convention Center, City Hall, all of this down south. The flood of people coming up through Prairie, Convention Center, Drive, et cetera. The question is, what the suggestion would be is to get someone, your traffic department, maybe one of your traffic consultants that you have on miscellaneous service, do a step, systemic step, from south to north, but from 44th Street down to 17th Street, what's really happening? School days, et cetera, and in the summer. Because we don't know, we're all fishing around for where it's coming from, what time is it, et cetera. You really need to do it. Traffic analysis of the problem. Then we can start to talk about answers and questions rather than just ad hoc solutions, which, may cause problems. If it's temporary, let's go for it. But I think we need to have a bigger, more holistic understanding of what's really.
Yeah, part of this is the study. It is because, and short of going to every single motorist on 41st Street and saying, knocking on the window and saying, hey, why are you leaving? I can tell you why they're leaving. They're leaving to go home. That's the only reason why people are leaving the beach. And so, what this pilot program does is it recognizes that we do have a problem. I think we need to study that we have a problem. We have a problem. And this is a solution to hopefully alleviate some of the problem. It's not a silver bullet. It's not going to solve traffic on 41st Street. It's not going to be the end all be all, but it's a start. Because what I'm hearing from everyone is that everyone's frustrated. Everyone's really frustrated about traffic. Some people can't even get out of their house. And so if you're coming from the south, you want to drop a kid off at Mathnasium, or you're coming from the north because you're working in North Beach and you want to come to your place in South Beach, it's a nightmare. It's an hour.
I live on 28th Street in Fairground. I'm in the middle of it too.
Yeah.
Alex is on 37th and Chase. So, it's not just 41st Street. It's everybody along Chase. It's everybody on 34th Street going east and west. And people have said, so I just recommend that we get the bigger picture and we can try these things. It's fine.
Yeah, and again, it's just a pilot program. It's only 6 months. It would go till, I believe, December. And we'll be collecting data. We'll be talking before, during, and after.
But the problem is, and I think Barry's point is well made, and this is what I was saying before, is you don't have any data for now, before you start the pilot. So Getting the data now, getting a good profile of data now about what's happening.
Are we being notified? Are we being notified that this is being happening? We were brought here for our thoughts and opinions, but it sounds like it's a pilot program being implemented. I didn't understand that. Is it something that vote on, something that we get to talk about?
This is a pilot program that we will vote
Okay. We know when that.
on, and we as a commission.
We know when that.
And there is, again, on the slide, there's a survey period up open until the 22nd. So all that's gonna be factored into their pilot program, and then eventually it may go, or I believe it will go for vote.
Do we know when it's coming?
Do we know when it's coming to the commission? It's coming on May 15th?
About the survey.
No, we have to do it correct. This charrette is part of the public input, and then the surveys, that'll be another couple of weeks. And then we're looking at, June commission meeting. June commission meeting.
Okay, let's go.
Very briefly, Commissioner Schwartz, thank you. You said something very important earlier, which is traffic flows where the least resistance is. This option, and I would like to see an option that increases the resistance. You're creating two options here that increase the resistance. You're creating two options that lower the resistance, which means more cars beyond the statement. You're saying, we need to, saying it's painful to go through here, so they go back to 395, where it originally was. So I would like to see an option that stops the traffic.
Can I just jump in here? So the city commission unanimously approved a Bayshore traffic calming program. That it's been years in the making. Jelena has been, working on this on behalf of the neighborhood, and the commission unanimously approved it specifically to deter the traffic from cutting through Central Bayshore. And as you heard, Jose mentioned, there's a two-phase project for the north side in Orchid Park. Similar type of project to deter the traffic from cutting in there. And Jelena is 100% right about what was promised to the neighborhood. I remember years ago when the convention center was still in the planning phases, the traffic diverter was promised to prevent the traffic from cutting north from Convention Center Drive, crossing Dade Boulevard, prevented from going into the neighborhood. And we need to follow up on that, because that is a promise that was made to the residents. And that will cut a lot of the traffic, especially like Basel. How horrible is a neighborhood during Basel? It's horrible. Why? Because the traffic comes straight in.
There at the school.
So your point is very well taken.
Thank you. And Jelena?
Yeah, to answer a couple of questions, Commissioner Magazine, because you say the traffic comes through this neighborhood because the thoroughways are filled up. It's really not 100% correct, because if I have to leave my home and I live right here, most often it will tell me when it's gridlocked in my neighborhood, go down and catch Alton Road. And to go onto 195. So we need to maximize our traffic to go around, and I understand there are things you can't avoid, but maximize Dade Boulevard, Alton Road. These are 4-lane roads to get people out instead of funneling them
I
through
think that's.
these two neighborhoods.
But
Now,
with this,
most of the time, I'm being diverted to go onto Alton Road from here. Because it's faster than schlepping myself up to 34th, making a left, and then sitting for 45 minutes in line to catch on 34th and Chase.
Yeah.
So the key is put as many options out. This is an option, don't get me wrong, but my question
But it
is,
does that.
what does, no,
I'll explain why.
no, it doesn't.
Because if,
Hold on, David, let me just finish my thought. Let me ask you, what are you trying to achieve with this 2-block closing? For parents to have an easier way to go and pick up their kids at school?
Yeah.
Or for the residents at all of us to have a leeway? Because the majority of your traffic goes from south going north instead of from north going south.
well, most of the traffic is going. Okay, so
But yeah, but it's coming from.
between
Coming
3 and
from the
7,
south.
let me finish my thought. So between 3 and 7:30, majority of the traffic is going west. And the majority of the traffic going west interferes with the traffic going north and south across 41st Street. And so you're telling me that if you want to encourage traffic to be on Alton, as it should be, to go west,
Right.
this program should. Because you cannot turn off to 41st Street. from those-
Yeah, but they don't go on 41st. What these people do is they come from South Beach, even Beach High, let's say Beach High parents. They come from Beach High, they travel up Prairie and Royal Palm to 34.
Yes.
Because they can't make it to 41st, okay, they turn onto, and you've seen it, I've seen you on your scooter driving during that time, you know? I mean, you've seen it. My point is, put the diverter in, first of all, because it eliminates your high impact time. You know, during convention,
Where exactly would you put it?
that diverter, you remember, where was it? It was right when you exit the parking garage, it forces you to turn onto Date, and you have to take Date to
Exiting
Alton.
from the park, just south of.
That was, I mean.
On
and I
Prairie,
think-
right?
No, convention.
No.
I didn't know.
That would first of all eliminate those high impact conventions. You know, it's a part of the big problem we're having here.
Those are valid concerns, obviously. I think we can separate those.
But they could.
So during high impact weekends, during like our Basel or spring break, you know, that's another animal.
Those, the majority of our bumper to bumper in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Is during high impact weeks, like during any kind of big convention.
And just to, we want to clarify something on next steps. What's the process going forward? So we all know the survey closes on the 22nd. And now Jose, in terms of the committees and which commission.
So we need to go back to the committee, the Public Safety Neighborhoods Quality of Life Committee. We're looking at going back to the committee in June. And then it would be July commission that we would then, you know, this would be discussed and voted upon. And at the committee level, we'll discuss the feedback that we received today and what we get from the
Let me
surveys.
ask you, once you start the pilot, which whatever option it is, because it's coming, however we talk about turning. Let's say 3 months into it, we realize it's a total disaster, hypothetically. Are we gonna stop it right then and there or continue running it for 6 months? Or what are we gonna do?
Well, we could stop.
I'm just wondering,
Yeah,
you know,
that would be up to the city commission if they feel it needs to stop because it's disaster.
I
They
mean-
could go ahead and do that. The gentleman in the back, but
And again, I'm not married to this idea, okay? We're responding to the number one issue in Miami Beach, which is traffic. And particularly in this neighborhood, people can't get from north to south across 41st Street. It takes an hour. Your traffic is backed up a mile on residential roads. It is. And so if it turns out to be a failure, we can kill it in a couple of months. It'll be on the off season and it won't be as much of an impact, but I think it's worth a shot. I think right now what we have is you have complete gridlock. It's only going to get worse. Nothing, and it's, if you're okay with the status quo, then I don't know what to tell you. Because if we don't try something, it's just gonna continue to get worse.
I completely agree, but I do have to say, I like the idea.
Joanna, we're gonna
of
stay-
Things and we discussed that holistically.
we're gonna stay and gonna keep this discussion.
Because we don't
But
wanna-
I'm gonna go to this gentleman.
One
He's had
problem
his-
from you.
So what I was hoping for is some numbers.
Yeah.
With some numbers, I could have an idea of where are we today? How many cars are going north to south to try to get to the first, how many are coming south and north? If we measure that, and we know if we've had an improvement or not. Is more traffic going to hit here?
That was one of the earlier comments.
More traffic going to hit Royal Palm. Right now, I think we're just hoping, and if there's, without that measurement, I mean, what's success? So with this study, I'd like to understand. I'm not getting it.
So There's a traffic study that we're doing in parallel to this pilot. That is looking at trying to squeeze in an additional turning lane along the avenues and that approaching 41st Street. But that's more of a longer term analysis. What's the schedule for that one, guys? 12 to 18 months. That's an analysis, that's a comprehensive analysis, and it's gonna, we're gonna collect data as part of that as well. We're gonna model, there's some modeling, some simulations involved with that one, it's more long-term. This plan is intended to be, something implementable quick and in the short term.
So I just wanna, for those on Zoom, again, we're gonna end the Zoom now. This was all recorded. We're going to start the survey tomorrow. Our emails, I apologize, you couldn't speak during the meeting, but you could go ahead and email us and we'll go ahead and get back to you as soon as we can. So we're